I get lots of press releases supposedly telling us about all kinds of new things that we just can't live without. I was tossing out a bunch of them when I came across this one from Rockler about their new silicone glue brush. And now I'm glad I noticed that one because this really is innovation that we can use. I know it looks a little different, but it turns out that this thing works pretty well. I have to admit that the look of this brush end had me a little concerned. It just doesn't look or feel like the thousands of acid brushes I've already used and thrown away. And I wasn't convinced that the spade shape on the other end was going to be all that usable either. Sooner or later, I'm just going to accept that Rockler actually knows what they're doing. I couldn't think of any really fancy tests, so I thought we'd just try spreading some glue and see how that went. And it turns out that while that silicone head looks a little different, it spreads glue pretty well. I started out with way too little glue on the wood. Once I started getting used to this brush and started putting enough glue on the wood, this brush does a really good job of spreading it out evenly. And while it does make little furrows in the glue, they're very shallow. They look a lot worse than they are, and they had no impact on the joint strength. And the first time around, it took me a little while to figure out the paddle end of this brush. Going across the joint like this, it's easy to leave a bunch of glue on the outside of the joint. But before long, I had one of those brain deals and realized that if you go up and down on the joint like this, you don't get hardly any glue on the outside, and you get a nice coat on the pieces you want to get coated. So this end works good too. Well, I guess the last thing to do is to load this thing up with glue, and we'll let it dry and see what happens. Well, there it is. Now let's just wait and see what happens. Okay, the glue's got to be dry by now. So let's see what this does. You do have to flex it a little bit. And some of the flat stuff you need to pick off of it. But it all comes off, especially around the bristles of the brush. That is amazing. And that appears to be pretty good.